The hum of keyboards, the occasional ringing of phones, and the soft murmur of conversations created a steady rhythm in the bustling corporate office. The sleek open-plan workspace was filled with rows of desks, illuminated by the natural light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Employees moved with purpose, clutching reports, sipping coffee, or engaged in quick discussions near their workstations. The energy of ambition hung in the air, palpable and relentless. Amid the flurry of activity, Maya Brown sat at her desk, her fingers gliding over her keyboard with practiced ease. A black woman in her early 30s, Maya had earned a reputation as one of the most diligent and talented analysts in the company. Her desk was immaculate but personal. A family photo, a small plant, and a stack of color-coded files spoke of her organized yet approachable demeanor. Maya was the go-to person for solving complex problems, her insights often steering the company toward success. Her colleagues respected her for her sharp mind and calm leadership, often turning to her for advice. Despite juggling multiple responsibilities, she always carried herself with grace and professionalism, her warm smile making even the busiest days seem manageable. "Maya, got a second?" called out Sarah, a junior colleague clutching a report. "I'm stuck on this financial projection." "Of course," Maya replied, turning her chair with a reassuring smile. Within minutes she had walked Sarah through the issue, her explanations clear and concise. As Sarah walked away, visibly relieved, Maya's phone buzzed with yet another task. It was a never-ending cycle, but Maya thrived on the challenge across the room. However, another pair of eyes observed her. Mark Peterson, the department manager, leaned back in his leather chair, his gaze flickering toward Maya's desk. A man in his late 40s with a sharp suit and an air of authority, Mark had a polished exterior. But beneath the surface lay a subtle but undeniable bias. Mark had always been courteous to Maya, but his actions often betrayed his true feelings. He would interrupt her during meetings, downplay her contributions, and praise less deserving colleagues for ideas that had originated with her. When it came to assigning high-visibility projects, Mark conveniently overlooked Maya, favoring others who aligned more closely with his personal biases. In one recent meeting, Maya had presented a detailed strategy that could save the company millions. While her colleagues had been impressed, Mark had dismissed it with a curt, "Let's keep brainstorming. We might find something stronger." 2 weeks later, the same strategy had been implemented, repackaged and presented by someone else. Mark's attitude hadn't gone unnoticed. Among the staff, whispers about his treatment of Maya circulated quietly, but never reached the surface. Maya, for her part, chose to focus on her work. She had learned long ago that professionalism and results spoke louder than words. Even if they didn't always drown out prejudice, as the day wore on, Maya received an email announcing a coveted managerial position opening within the department. It was the kind of role she had worked toward for years, one that recognized leadership and rewarded excellence. Colleagues stopped by her desk encouraging her to apply. "This one's yours, Maya," said John, a senior analyst. "No one else comes close to what you've done for this team." Maya smiled but kept her response measured. "Thanks, John. I'll give it some thought," she said, though her mind was already racing. She knew she was qualified, more than qualified, but she also knew who would have the final say. Mark Peterson. Mark watched the buzz around Maya from his office, his expression unreadable. He tapped his pen against his desk, his thoughts clouded with the quiet prejudice that had always influenced his decisions. Maya's achievements were undeniable, but in his mind they were never quite enough to justify the recognition she deserved. As the office lights dimmed for the evening, Maya packed up her things, her determination stronger than ever. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready. Little did she know, this chapter of her career was about to take a turn that neither she nor Mark could have anticipated. Maya sat in the brightly lit conference room, her presentation materials spread neatly before her. She had spent weeks preparing for this meeting, crafting a meticulous proposal to demonstrate why she was the ideal candidate for the managerial role. Her work spoke for itself. Years of consistent results, innovative strategies, and unwavering dedication to her team. The energy in the room was positive. Several colleagues had even nodded in quiet agreement during her presentation. Mark Peterson, however, sat at the head of the table with an expression that was hard to read. He leaned back slightly, his pen tapping against the notepad in front of him. When Maya concluded, her voice calm and confident, she looked directly at him, waiting for feedback. "That's a solid overview, Maya," Mark began, his tone polite but distant. "You've clearly put a lot of effort into this." "Thank you," Maya replied with a small nod, her hands clasped in her lap. She knew the compliment was only the preamble. The hesitation in his voice and the slight downturn of his lips signaled what was coming. Mark shifted forward, folding his hands on the table. "However, I think it's important to consider the bigger picture here. This position requires strong leadership, someone who can inspire and guide a team under pressure. And while your work is exceptional, I'm not sure you're quite ready for that step." The words landed like a weight in the room. Maya's heart sank, but her expression remained composed. "Could you clarify what you mean by not ready?" she asked evenly, her voice carrying just a hint of curiosity. Mark offered a small smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. "It's not about your technical skills, those are top-notch. But leadership is about more than numbers and ideas. It's about presence, being someone people naturally rally around." Maya's brow furrowed slightly. "With respect, I've led multiple projects successfully, and my team's feedback has always been positive. Could you provide specific examples where I could improve?" Mark's smile faltered. "It's not something you can measure," he said vaguely. "It's more of an instinct, a certain quality that some people just have." Maya nodded slowly, understanding the subtext. It wasn't about her skills or experience, it was about something else entirely. A quiet prejudice that couldn't be quantified, but was undeniably present. The meeting ended shortly after, and Maya returned to her desk. She sat for a moment, replaying the conversation in her mind. Her colleagues, sensing the outcome, stopped by to offer quiet support. "You deserve that role, Maya," said John, his voice low. "Everyone knows it." "Thanks," she said with a faint smile, appreciating the sentiment but unwilling to dwell on it. Complaining wouldn't change the reality. In the days that followed, Mark's decision became more apparent through his actions. In team meetings, he continued to downplay Maya's contributions, often redirecting credit to others. When Maya suggested ideas, he would dismiss them as too ambitious, only to praise similar proposals from others later. One particular moment stood out. During a meeting about a new client acquisition strategy, Maya had presented a comprehensive plan that outlined every step, complete with projections and risk analysis. Mark barely acknowledged her effort, nodding curtly before moving on. Weeks later, the same strategy was implemented, but presented by one of Maya's peers, who received full credit. The microaggressions were subtle but relentless. When colleagues praised Maya in Mark's presence, he would quickly change the subject or offer a lukewarm, "Yes, she's good, but we all have areas to grow." In private conversations, he would frame her as hardworking but a bit too cautious, or talented but not quite leadership material. Despite all this, Maya remained steadfast. She continued to excel in her work, mentoring junior colleagues, meeting deadlines, and delivering results that others couldn't. She knew the value of her efforts, even if Mark refused to see it. But the sting of rejection lingered. She had always believed that merit would be enough, that hard work and results would speak louder than bias. This experience, however, had been a painful reminder that the world didn't always operate on fairness. Still, Maya refused to let the injustice define her. She carried herself with dignity, focusing on the bigger picture. What Mark didn't realize was that the very qualities he dismissed, her resilience, her composure, her unshakable professionalism, were the ones that made her a true leader. Little did Mark know, the world had a way of leveling the playing field, and soon his perception of Maya would be turned upside down. It was a typical Tuesday morning, and the office hummed with its usual energy. The faint clatter of keyboards and low murmur of conversations filled the air. Maya was at her desk, focused on finalizing a report. Despite the recent disappointment, she remained as committed as ever. Her work ethic was unshaken, and she continued to carry herself with the same grace and professionalism. But this day was different. An email notification popped up on everyone's screen, carrying the subject line, "Important announcement, corporate acquisition details." The office buzzed with whispers and curious glances as employees opened the email. Maya clicked it cautiously, her eyes scanning the bolded text. "We are excited to announce that our company has been acquired by Global Strategies, a leading multinational firm. As part of this transition, leadership changes will be announced shortly. Stay tuned for an all-hands meeting at noon." Maya leaned back in her chair, processing the news. Global Strategies was known for its merit-based approach and commitment to diversity, a stark contrast to the culture she had endured under Mark Peterson's leadership. A flicker of hope sparked within her, though she tempered it with cautious optimism. The all-hands meeting began promptly at noon. Employees crowded into the conference room, their faces a mix of curiosity and apprehension. At the front stood a team of executives from Global Strategies, their presence commanding the room. "Thank you all for joining us," began a tall, confident woman in a navy suit. "I'm Rebecca Lang, the Regional Director for Global Strategies. We're thrilled to welcome you to our family. As we move forward, we're committed to recognizing and rewarding the talent within this organization." Rebecca's words were met with polite applause, but the room's energy shifted noticeably when she added, "I'm also pleased to announce some leadership changes, effective immediately." Mark, seated near the front, adjusted his tie, his face betraying a mix of nerves and anticipation. He had spent years climbing the corporate ladder, and he assumed his tenure would secure him a prominent role in the new structure. "As part of our evaluation process," Rebecca continued, "we've reviewed the contributions of key personnel. One individual in particular stood out for their exceptional professionalism, innovative thinking, and ability to inspire those around them. It is my pleasure to announce that Maya Brown has been promoted to the position of Senior Operations Manager, overseeing this department." The room erupted into applause. Maya froze, her heart pounding as the words sank in. She looked around, her colleagues smiling and nodding at her with genuine pride. Slowly she stood, her expression a mix of disbelief and quiet pride. Mark, meanwhile, was visibly stunned. His jaw tightened, his hands gripping the edges of his chair. He clapped reluctantly, his mind racing as the reality of the announcement hit him. Maya, whom he had dismissed and undervalued, was now his boss. Rebecca gestured for Maya to come forward. "Maya, your contributions have been nothing short of exemplary. We're confident that under your leadership, this team will thrive." Maya stepped forward, her composure returning as she addressed the room. "Thank you, Rebecca," she began, her voice steady. "I'm honored by this opportunity and excited to work with such a talented team. Together, I know we can achieve great things." The applause swelled again as Maya took her seat at the head of the table, a symbolic shift in power that wasn't lost on anyone. After the meeting, Mark lingered near his desk, clearly uneasy. He glanced toward Maya's office, now adorned with her nameplate. He couldn't shake the knot in his stomach, a mix of regret, embarrassment, and fear of the unknown. How would she treat him now? Would she seek revenge for the way he had dismissed her? He couldn't be sure. Maya, meanwhile, was settling into her new office when there was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," she said, looking up to see Mark standing awkwardly in the doorway. "Congratulations," he said stiffly, avoiding her gaze. "You've earned it." "Thank you, Mark," Maya replied, her tone professional but cool. She gestured to the chair opposite her desk. "Would you like to sit?" He hesitated, but eventually sat down, his discomfort evident. "I wanted to say, I might not have always been fair to you," he began, his voice faltering. "And for that, I'm sorry. I underestimated you, and I see now how wrong I was. Maya regarded him for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "Thank you for saying that," she said finally. "I appreciate it. But I want you to know that my goal isn't to dwell on the past. This team's success depends on all of us working together, including you. So let's move forward." Her words were calm yet firm, leaving no room for ambiguity. Mark nodded, visibly relieved, but still humbled. "I'll do my best," he said quietly, before leaving the office. As the day wore on, Maya adjusted seamlessly into her new role, her leadership inspiring those around her. The shift in power was undeniable, but Maya's professionalism ensured that the transition was smooth. For Mark, the experience served as a stark reminder of his own shortcomings, a lesson he wouldn't soon forget. For Maya, it was more than a promotion. It was validation that hard work, resilience, and integrity always spoke louder than bias. And for the team, it was proof that true leadership was about merit, not prejudice. It was late in the afternoon, and the office was quieter than usual. Maya sat in her new corner office, the view from the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a picturesque backdrop of the bustling city. The room was neatly organized, a reflection of her methodical nature, and the faint hum of her computer filled the air as she reviewed her agenda for the next day. A soft knock interrupted her focus. She glanced up to see Mark standing at the door, his posture stiff and uncertain. For a moment, the two regarded each other in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. "Come in, Mark," Maya said evenly, gesturing toward the chair across from her desk. Her tone was professional, devoid of any lingering resentment. Mark stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. He hesitated before sitting, his usual air of authority replaced by a palpable unease. "I know you're busy, but I was hoping we could talk," he began, his voice low. Maya folded her hands on the desk, her expression calm but attentive. "Of course," she said. "What's on your mind?" He looked down at his hands, then back up at her, his face etched with discomfort. "I've been reflecting a lot over the past few days," he said slowly, "about how I treated you, about the decisions I made." Maya didn't respond immediately, allowing him the space to continue. "I want to be honest," he said, his voice faltering. "I underestimated you. I allowed my biases, whether conscious or not, to cloud my judgment. You were always the most capable person on this team, and I failed to see it. Or maybe I just didn't want to see it." His admission hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. Maya's expression softened slightly, but she remained composed. "I can't change the past," Mark continued, his gaze steady now. "But I want to take responsibility for my actions. I was wrong, and I'm truly sorry for how I treated you." Maya leaned back slightly in her chair, her eyes thoughtful. "I appreciate your apology, Mark," she said after a moment, her tone calm but firm. "It takes courage to admit when you're wrong." Mark exhaled, his shoulders relaxing just slightly. "You didn't deserve any of it," he said. "And seeing the way you've handled yourself, your professionalism, your leadership, it's shown me what I should have valued all along." Maya nodded, her gaze steady. "Thank you, Mark," she said. "But let me be clear. I'm not here to hold grudges or dwell on the past. My focus is on the team and the work we need to do. This is about moving forward." Mark nodded quickly, relief flickering across his face. "I understand," he said, "and I promise I'll do my part to support you and this team." Maya leaned forward slightly, her voice measured but kind. "Support isn't just about words, Mark. It's about actions. It's about ensuring that everyone on this team is treated with respect and given the opportunities they've earned, regardless of who they are or where they come from." Her words were firm but carried no malice. Instead, they were a reminder of the standards she expected, not just from him, but from herself and the team. Mark nodded again, his respect for her evident. "I won't let you down," he said quietly. Maya offered a faint smile, a gesture of goodwill. "Good," she said simply. "Now let's focus on building something great together." Mark stood, sensing that the conversation was over. "Thank you, Maya," he said sincerely. "And again, I'm sorry." She watched as he left, her expression thoughtful. While his apology didn't erase the hurtful moments she had endured, it was a step toward change. And for Maya, that was enough. As the office returned to its rhythm, Maya felt a quiet sense of closure. She had chosen dignity over resentment, professionalism over vindication. Her success wasn't defined by Mark's apology. It was defined by the years of hard work and resilience that had brought her here for Mark. The conversation was a turning point, a moment of reckoning that forced him to confront his own biases. And, for the team, it marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where merit, respect, and fairness would guide their work in the end. It wasn't just Maya's promotion that mattered. It was the lesson that came with it. Leadership isn't about power or position. It's about lifting others up and creating an environment where everyone can thrive. The days that followed Maya's promotion were a whirlwind of activity. She stepped into her new role with the same calm determination that had always defined her, her focus now on guiding the team to new heights. Meetings were no longer places where voices were silenced or ideas ignored. Under Maya's leadership, everyone was given a seat at the table, their contributions valued and recognized. Her natural ability to connect with her colleagues brought a renewed sense of energy to the department. Junior employees felt empowered to share their ideas, knowing they wouldn't be dismissed. Even those who had once doubted her quickly came to respect her fair but firm approach. Mark, now reporting to her, adjusted to his new position with quiet humility. While it wasn't easy for him to confront his past actions, he found himself learning from Maya, her leadership, her professionalism, and her ability to rise above challenges without bitterness. Slowly but surely, the team began to transform into a cohesive, supportive unit. One afternoon, Maya stood at the front of the conference room, addressing her team after a successful project launch. The air was filled with excitement and pride as she spoke. "This success isn't mine," she said, her voice steady and warm. "It's ours. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we work together, when we recognize and respect the value that every person brings to the table." Her words resonated deeply, not just because of what she said, but because of who she was. A leader who had earned her position through hard work, resilience, and the ability to inspire others. As the office quieted down at the end of the day, Maya sat in her corner office, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. The challenges she had faced, the biases she had overcome, and the resilience she had cultivated all seemed like distant memories now. But she knew they were part of the story, just as much as her success. The screen fades to black as a soft narration begins. In every workplace, in every corner of life, there are those who are overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed, not because of their abilities, but because of someone else's biases. This isn't just a story about one woman's triumph. It's a reminder of the importance of seeing beyond the surface, of judging people not by assumptions, but by their character and contributions. On screen appears, bold and thought-provoking. How do you see the people around you? Are you lifting others up or holding them back? True leadership isn't about power or control. It's about fairness, respect, and creating opportunities for everyone to succeed. Imagine what the world could be if we all chose to lead with integrity. The final words linger on the screen. Recognize, respect, rise. As the screen fades to black, the sound of quiet applause echoes in the background, a subtle reminder that change begins with every small step we take toward understanding and inclusivity.